Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. Bugsy Malone's over the back. I'll be honest, guys, this is about my 15th time of trying to record this. She's in a right mood this morning, barking non-stop at me, so I apologise if there's going to be any on the show. Let me ask you for some favours, guys. We've got to talk about Don Paratici. He's back at the football club. A really interesting update to go through here around how it looks, whether it's a good move or a bad move to have the new structure in place the way that Vinay has gone about it. We'll talk about it right now. Please smash the like button, guys, for me if you enjoy the video. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on the topic, which is, of course, Don Paratici back at the club in a full-time role. So he has just finished serving his 2-year ban that he received whilst Tottenham's sporting director, or director of football previously, but not for his conduct at Tottenham, but for his conduct previously when at Juventus. He's then just had a civil case which has been concluded for basically the same area of alleged wrongdoings, of which he is serving an 18-month, I think, suspended sentence. But the ban is over, so he was able to return to a football club in full-term capacity. He's come back to Tottenham, and he's been given the role of sporting director. So it begs the question, what happens to Johan Lange? Well, he has also been given the role and a promotion to co-sporting director. And Vinay is sort of pushing the narrative, and you can understand why, that it's a fantastic thing that we're going to have both of the experts in the room with co-authority. You know, essentially 2 minds are better than one. And these things sound great on paper. They really do. There's no clarity yet whether or not there's specific divisions of labour. Like one person is responsible for transfer negotiations, another person is directly responsible for the scouting side, the youth policy. Not sure. But what's interesting is I think most people would sit there and think, I'm happy with the Paratici to come back in. Maybe he, it's I think that the obvious benefit, right, first and foremost, the obvious benefit is that Paratici over the last couple of years, whilst he's been in a consultancy capacity, he hasn't been able to get involved with the negotiations. And that maybe has been costly for Tottenham. He can be involved in the identification of the talent. He can't be in the room. He can't be the guy that's figuring out the contract. And he can't be sitting there with his conviviality, his likability factor, being the guy that's discussing things with his counterparts in other football clubs. And so in his absence, for all intents and purposes, we've either had to employ intermediaries, or we have probably, in all likelihood, had Daniel Levy doing those things. And so that hasn't always worked out well. Despite, you know how I feel about Daniel Levy, I think he, generally speaking, did a very good job at Tottenham, but there's certainly areas of his game that were problematic, and one of them was the relationships that he probably has, the bridges that he might have burnt over the years by nickelling and diming. So having him at the forefront, maybe there's an argument to say that it was him and his propensity to negotiate too hard that maybe cost us in certain deals. Eze springs to mind. Either way, having him back, Paratici back, is a wonderful sort of boon for that element of the gap in what, Tottenham's transfer strategy will currently have, knowing that Daniel Levy had his finger on everything, wouldn't take his hands off the reins. His absence will have left a void in who does what in what departments. And so Paratici being back can handle that side of it, I would imagine, more so than Johan Lange. When it comes to the others, youth strategy, well, look, I think most of us would sit there and say, not knowing the details, not knowing the specific involvement in any particular sort of deal, but the fact that Tottenham over the last couple of years since Lange's been here have pivoted their strategy more towards the youth side than prior, and that he's had a decent enough hit rate with some of the players that he's bought. Obviously some of the players you can make the argument that haven't necessarily matured yet or developed, but he's certainly overpaid for some. You can make the argument for Mathys Tel, maybe for Udogie, maybe for Archie Gray, for example. But identifying people like Berghvall, for example, and getting that one done, certainly a really good track record. So I think some people would sit there and say on paper, I'm happy for Johan Lange to do the youth scouting and the youth, like the ones for the future, but let Paratici focus on the ones for now. I mean, again, I'm not sure if that would be the way it would line up, but I think there's problems within that mould in and of itself. I think you could also make the argument that Paratici might sit there and say, well look, you know, I was the one who was responsible. I had the ear of Daniel Levy to tear up the rule book with regards our actual internal youth strategy 3 or 4 years ago. And that whole work is now starting to bear fruits, right? Hopefully there'll be, you know, 2 or 3 players coming through over the next 12, 18 months. So there's even a debate really as to who has done more in regards the approach to the youth side of the football game with regards strategy, transfers, and also homegrown sort of development. There's a conflict there, or debate about who's offered more value. There's also a debate in the argument of, are you blocking the pathway to our own talents and what Paratici had started building a few years ago by Johan Lange's approach to going and buying 18, 19-year-olds and paying a lot of money for them from other clubs. So there's already a conflict in that particular argument. More generally, I've worked in the corporate world for most of my career, and I think anyone else who's watching this who's worked in the corporate world will probably agree with me that there's always egos, there's always conflicts, and best laid plans with regards joint ventures between 2 people that are trying to, you know, forge their own career. They might start off in an agreeable, convivial manner, thinking that it's, you know, if as long as I get my opportunity, I'm happy to work with this person or whatever else. But in reality, as soon as they both get their feet under the table, there will be a natural human condition emotion to try to kind of wrestle with power, wrestle with politics, wrestle with the right to be right and to be the one that's heard, to try to take credit, all of those things, because, you know, people are inherently selfish, right? People care more about themselves than they do about anything else, generally speaking. And so I fear that a decision that has been made that has been to sort of respect the role that Paratici played in the past and to give him his space back, but at the same time not undermine what Johan Lange has done. That decision by Vinay, that he is spinning as one of, you know, 2 heads are better than one, and it's going to be fantastic. And it might be, especially as I said before, with the vacuum of the role that Daniel Levy used to play with him going, you know, there's going to be a lot more responsibility on people that were coming up. And so maybe Vinay's thinking, you know, let's sort of work this out and see how they get on together first, but there'll be a lot more for them to do now that Daniel Levy's gone, which is fine. But on the other hand, I think you could also spin this as a little bit of, I don't know, I hate to use the word weak, but like an easy decision to make. You know, I don't want to have to make a tough decision with regards Paratici, because he's done a lot for the football club, but he was Daniel Levy's guy, and Daniel Levy's no longer here. And I'll hold my hands up. I said to you guys, I think a month ago, I said I'd be surprised now that Levy's gone and that Vinay's coming in and Charrington are in and all these people are coming in with these plans to like expand the corporate structure. We've already got the person from Arsenal, the chief marketing officer. We have the lady who used to be involved with the England, I think it was the female cricket team. That you're going to have new people come in. They want to stamp their own authority. They want to put their own brand on the strategy. Otherwise, what's the point in them being there? The only reason they're there in the first place is because the previous guy didn't do well enough. If they had been doing well enough, then these guys wouldn't be here. So then to come in and just carry on with the same template anyway, it would be unusual. But, and to Vinay's credit, I think he put all that to one side and obviously saw the value in Paratici that Daniel Levy saw. So it will be very interesting. But my experience and my gut instinct here, I don't know, I feel like the human condition will mean that there'll be conflicts between these two. Unless there are clear delineations of responsibility and clear tasks. But even within the obvious ones that you look at and think, okay, if Paratici's being given the role of buying, you know, first team players, and Johan Lange was looking for the players for the future, you still have to have an overarching agreement of what sort of football club you're trying to build, what sort of style of play. And obviously you're going to have the opinions of Thomas Frank built into that. I'm sure Vinay will play a part as well to some degree. And so I just worry whether it's too many chiefs, not enough Indians, in the battle, especially as I'm not sure if they see football through the same lens. Are you? Let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about this? It feels to me like it's an easy decision to make, to say, well, we want to get Paratici back, but we can't really punish Johan Lange because he hasn't really done anything wrong. It would be very difficult for Paratici wouldn't come back to play second fiddle to Johan Lange, and Johan Lange probably wouldn't be very happy if Paratici came back and was his boss. And so therefore, it's easier if we just make them both at equal levels. Will there be any cliques, any favouritisms, any sort of relationship fractures or struggles, friction? I mean, there's also, by the way, in the announcement, there's the intention to sign another director of football, so somebody to sit below them. And then at that point, right, is it, two's company, three's a crowd? Even if the two of them got on well, is the third element going to, how much sway will they have? Who is that's going to have the final decision? There's too many unknowns here for me to give like a 100%, 10 out of 10 positive move. And the fact that there's unknowns, the only way you can really be positive about this, entirely positive, is if you assume that it will be smooth waters and that everything, they'll be on the same page with regards to everything. And they won't be. They won't be. They might disagree on how much one position is a priority over another. How much influence is Thomas Frank going to have in this? Is there three parties that are going to have equal say in what's necessary for the football club? Who knows? But to me, just having two chiefs, two heads of one division, and with the intention of hiring someone underneath, I lean towards, I'm happy that Paratici's back, very happy. I think he's got a very good eye for talent. I don't think as badly about Johan Lange as others do, but I certainly don't give him like a glowing report for his time at Tottenham so far. But my instinct here tells me that this might sound positive. It might be spun in a way where having just more expertise at the table can only lead to good things. If that was the case, then every organisation would have a flat hierarchical structure, and they don't. There's always a reason why it's a pyramid. And to me, I don't know, having two chiefs, I think it's going to lead to conflict and problems. And then sometimes you get paralysis by analysis as well. If you can't decide, you can't agree on what the right strategy is or who the right target of a player is, do you end up not doing anything? And if one of them misses out on one, and the overarching decision, someone has to pull the trigger and say, we're kind of knocking heads here. I want this, he wants that, we can't make a mind up. Then someone else has to make the decision, and does that again result in conflict and friction? But more importantly than that, if you then have to come to compromise, well, compromise is like no one wins. Then you're merging opinions. It's like in government, if you have a hung parliament and the intentions and the manifesto of one party has to get diluted down to make room for the manifesto of the other, then you end up, no one wins, no one's happy, no group of people ever get what they want. And so if you're employing expertise and you're paying good money for expertise, then you should be able to trust that person's expertise. But if it ends up with people just butting heads and therefore winning one, losing one, I don't know. The more I talk about this out openly, the more I think this has got more problems than solutions. But like I say, I'm very, very happy that he's back. I think he did a very good job when he was at Tottenham, and if anything, I would just probably rather have had him back and Johan Lange possibly move to one side. That's probably how I would have chosen it. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Last bit of news: Victor Frohold is another player, right? Another Scandinavian player. That story is still heating up again. Tottenham very much looking at him today. I've done a report on him before. I won't bore you with it today, but fantastic midfielder. We probably should have made a move for him in the summer when we were first linked. He ended up moving to Portugal, and was it Portugal? Yeah, it was Portugal. I think it was Porto, right? And yeah, he's doing wonderful things there. Yet more links again today for Vlahovic, yet more links today for Ademola Lookman, yet more links today for Firmino. I mean, it's the same names, same stories. They're getting pushed around the table because You know, there's not a lot, not very much to go on. But this story for me, as I say, I need to know what the kind of delineations, the responsibilities are before I can really get too excited. But yeah, for me, guys, I just feel like this one's going to be, it's an easy decision that can be spun into a super positive. But I think it's a little bit naive to think that there won't be egos that are egoing, conflicts and struggles. Maybe not immediately, but before long. Let me know your thoughts. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, bye-bye.